That's how I didn't quit West Side Story when I thought I was going to.
I'm an American girl now. I don't wait.
I'm Rita Moreno, and you are watching the essential guide of me, by me, for me. It was hard for me to eventually get the part of Anita in West Side Story because they were testing anybody and everybody who had dark eyes and dark hair. At the time, I had some stiff competition in a couple of young actresses, but they couldn't do everything. And that's what actually saved my arse, because I could dance, and I really did dance. I was an actress. I've been an actress for years at that point, and I'd been singing for years, since I was 5 years old. So that really probably is what got me. I changed the words of America. I didn't change them. Stephen Sondheim changed them. But this is an interesting story because at the time I'd already gotten the part and I was just jubilating beyond what you can imagine. Big, big part, juicy, big part. And then one day I said to myself, wait a minute. Puerto Rico, you ugly island. Island of tropic diseases. And I thought, oh my God, I can't do that. How am I going to do this? How am I going to get out of it? And still, I don't want to get out of it. I love the role. And I was so ready, truly this close to calling my agent saying, I just can't do it. And just about that time, I didn't quit West Side Story, but I thought I was going to. Terrence McNally, who was a playwright and did some wonderful plays on Broadway and off-Broadway, was working on a farce. And I was doing a play on Broadway with James Coco. I went to James's birthday party, I think, at his apartment. And I'd been doing this character who didn't have a name. And talking like this all the time, and I had a dream about Joe, baby. And Jimmy thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. So when the party took place, he said to Terrence McNally, you've got to hear Rita doing this Puerto Rican character who has no talent.
Someday, you're going to see the name of Googie Gomez in lights, and you're going to say to yourself, was that her? And then you're going to answer to yourself, that was her.
I invented her, by the way. So I did Everything's Coming Up Roses. Garden of Light and Light. And Terrence thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever seen, which was pretty funny. So he wrote a part for this character, and he named her Googie, in quotes, Rita Gomez. And that's how that happened. And I got the Tony for that.
I had a dream about Joe, baby.
The showrunner is Tom Fontana, who's now doing City on the Hill. I joined a table once at Elaine's, this famous restaurant where all the show folk went. And I was told he was a writer. And I said, so how come you haven't written anything for me? And he said, literally, and he said, well, I will. And then about 3 months later, he calls up and he says, I'd like to meet you. Let's have dinner. And we'll talk about this part that I have in mind for you. So we're having dinner. And I said, so what's this character like? Because we've been just socializing till then. And as I'm about to put a piece of cake in my mouth, he says, you'll play the nun. And I said, the nun?
We live in a nation of laws, some of which are inspired and some of which are just lousy, but we can't abandon our moral code whenever it's convenient.
She's political, she's compassionate, she's a counselor. I said, counselor? The thing that solved me is I said, okay, let me put a question to you. If she's had a really bad day at the prison, can she open a drawer of her desk and pull out a bottle of whiskey and pour a swig for herself? And he said, of course. And I said, it's my kind of woman. Okay, I'll do it.
Well, you know me. If there's a way to get somebody out of death row, I will find it.
My mother had a really delicious Puerto Rican accent, and she had it all her life. And it's something I've always imitated when I want to make people laugh because it's so cute. You know, she'd do things like going swimming at the beach or changing the shits on the bed. And I always thought, this is so usable. How can I use this someday? And along came One Day at a Time. And I asked Norman Lear, would you want an accent? He said, oh, yes. I said, okay, got it. And I said something like, do you mean like this? And they said, yes, yes, yes.
I am fluent in mambo, not mambo jumbo.
I said to them, okay, I understand that I'm playing a grandmother. That's fine. What I want you to do is I want her to be a sexual being. I want her to have a sense of sexuality about her.
Do I look too perfect? I don't want to outshine the bride. Just kidding. Yes, I do.
The writers loved it. The writers loved that she flirted with her daughter's boyfriend. I mean, she's such a great character. I made a promise to myself that I would be as truthful as I could possibly be, and not knowing that I would be tested.
I loved being listened to when I was saying very, very important things that I had never thought of before.
The camera became really my interlocutor. It became the judge. I couldn't skirt around certain issues. And now I'm so grateful that I made that promise to myself.
I was really drawn to her. She made me feel like a woman could do anything because she did. She was a Latina, like me.
Hearing from people like Gloria Estefan and all of the people who involved themselves in this documentary with respect to who they perceived me as being was really quite amazing.
It really hurt her soul to have to play those characters in that way.
Returning to West Side Story is the experience of my life. It boasts two people whose work I simply worship, and that's Steven Spielberg. One of my favorite movies is still E.T. And one of my favorite writers is Tony Kushner. Being back on this set, it's really hard to describe because it brought back such memories. I cried a lot. And I cried mostly because now Anita has a real sense of dignity, the part of Anita. But she always did, actually. She was one of the very few characters who kind of respected herself. But now the whole movie respects the Latino-ness of the characters in it. Steven and Tony Kushner absolutely bent themselves into pretzels to get it right, whereas the original did not quite sometimes. And I want to be careful about criticizing the other because it was still an extraordinary experience. It was a brilliant concept. You know, Romeo and Juliet in the West Side. Come on. Can't beat that. Thrilling, thrilling, thrilling.
Somewhere a place for us.
Yes, I am wearing my jammies and I'm wearing my scuffs. And this is how I dress for these things. And you're not supposed to see this. Sneaky, sneaky.